Kevin, we have a lot of things to paint, and we're going to spray them, and look at all the choices in spray paint.
We have got dozens of different colors to choose from, and we also have to think about the finish that we want to get from the can. And so here are a couple different examples. This is a metallic finish. We've got metallic blue and metallic gold.
You look here, this is the same color red, only this is a satin and this is a gloss finish. Look at the difference in that.
Makes a huge difference actually in the way it looks. They've got some specialty paints, and this is a chalkboard paint, and so you can actually cover your wall with that and then let your kids go crazy with the chalk, and that'll just clean right up.
Another specialty one is a textured paint. You can see this matches up really good with a cap, and then feel it. It's textured to look like stone.
All right, this one is supposed to look like metal, in this case textured metal, and over here a hammered metal finish. And believe it or not, that just comes right out of the can.
I like that. But before we think of the paint, we should think of the primer.
Right, now a lot of these cans actually are primer and paint in one, and that might just be one step that you need to do. But there are times that you want to use a separate primer.
If you have a porous material like raw wood or concrete, you definitely want to put a primer on that.
Right, and then also if you're trying to cover up a darker color, let's say you've got something painted black and you want to go to a lighter color, a primer will give you good coverage. And then one time you always want to use a separate primer is when you're dealing with rust.
With rust, exactly. And this primer here has fish oil in it. That fish oil encapsulates the rust so that you get good coverage and your paint will stick and not flake off.
Here's a different take on the same idea. Instead of encapsulation with fish oil, this actually uses tannic acid, and it chemically changes the rust so that it doesn't spread and you don't have a problem.
For the grill, we're going to use a high heat paint. This will actually hold up to 1200 degrees and not flake off the grill.
All right, so we've got high heat paint. We've also got some paint specifically made for plastics or made for metal. But if you grab a can like this, you can see that this one will actually work on any surface, wood, metal, plastic, masonry. So that's a good choice.
It's got a different shape to that can.
Yeah, this nozzle, it's sort of a new nozzle, and the idea is that if you use the old-fashioned nozzle all day long, you might get a little finger fatigue. This is more of a pistol grip. You can get 2 fingers on there. But I think that more importantly, it's designed to minimize drips, and this can is meant to work at any angle. So imagine if you're trying to paint, say, the inside of a toolbox, well, you can actually use this can upside down.
That's great. Why don't you grab that one? I have the high heat.
Okay.
I'm going to get this hammered one too.
How about a little glossy red for you? That'll look good on your nails.
There, you got that?
Yeah, I got it.
Kevin, the most important part of a good paint job is the prep. Now, we're going to be working on metal first today, and we want to knock off as much of that rust as we can before we paint.
Yep.
So we got to use a variety of tools. We got a wire brush.
We got a sanding block and a piece of sandpaper.
Even some steel wool.
All right.
And right here is a palm sander with an 80 grit disc on the bottom.
All right, well, let's start scraping. You know, Roger, it's nice to have a couple tools in the mix. The sander works well in the flat areas, but this steel wool can really get into these curved areas. And the wire brush, well, that's great for these grooves.
Like I said, whatever works.
All right, and the last step of the prep is just to get a bucket of water and soap and then wipe down the surfaces to get rid of all the dust.
This plastic pot I'm going to wash down with soap and water. Then I'm going to wipe it down with denatured alcohol to take any oil off that might be on it. With everything clean and dry, we're ready to spray. I'm going to start spraying this pot with a primer that's made just for plastic.
And for our metal wagon, I am going to use the primer with that tannic acid that actually alters the state of the rust. So the rust on this table is not too bad, so I'm just going to spot prime it, and for that I'm going to use the rusty metal primer.
Now, for the cover of the grill, we've protected everything that we don't want to get painted with newspaper and tape, so you're good to go.
And for everything else, we don't need any primer. We're just going to spray it with this high heat paint. Now I'm going to do the top coat. I'm going to keep the can 12 inches away from the surface, and I'm always going to keep the can moving so that it is nice and even. And we are going to do 2 finish coats.
The primer bonds to the plastic. Now we can use any top coat we want.
Looks pretty good. I'd say this stuff cleaned up nicely.
Can you believe Tommy and Richard wanted to throw this stuff out? I mean, we've got a good-looking grill, a nice patio set, a beautiful planter, and a shiny red wagon.
Just goes to show, if you pick the right paint and you do the prep work, it can make a big difference.
Absolutely.